Hello everyone tuning into the video. So today we're just going to be doing a little tier list. I made one before this. What was it about? It was about the Hearts of Iron 4 DLCs, I believe. No. Maybe. I can't even remember. But today we're going to be doing a little bit of a different tier list. This is about Shogun 2 Total War, and these are just the factions. These are the clans. So these clans are probably some of just the most iconic clans in Total War history, period. It doesn't even matter on the game. Now, I can't name all of these, but I remember what they do. Alright. So this is the Usagi, I believe. These are the Hakori? I can't even remember. Something with H. Takeda, Shimazu, Atomo, Oda, Mori, Ikoiki, Mojai, something like that. Don't remember. Date, and Oda, I believe. Oda? Something like that. So, no wait, these are the Oda, these are the Chosokobi, that's it. Alright. So, the Usagi, these guys are the warrior monks, I believe. Now, their warrior monks can beat, Ashigaru, Yari Ashigaru. But, I think they're pretty expensive, actually. I think they're like double the cost or something. No, they wouldn't be double the cost, but, like, 3/4 more of the original cost of the Ashigaru. And their position at the start isn't very good. They're surrounded by very powerful factions such as the Ikoiki and the Oda. And the Oda steamroll early game, same with the Ikoiki. So your best bet would be to ally with one of them. Oh, and also the Usagi, if you're playing them, Usuji, something like that. Take over these boys as soon as possible. Get those gold mines. It's very good, easy early game. What's the word? It's a very easy early game resource to acquire. Gold is one of the most prized resources in the whole game, so it's just perfect to get that. So I'll put them at a solid B. Oh, we should probably go through what each of these means. D is don't play. C is, if you want to. B is, it's pretty good. I don't recommend it, but you won't have a bad time. A is, they're pretty good. You'll be able to do some damage. S is, like, God. Like, you can steamroll early game. And we won't be just taking, we won't be, what's the word? We won't be looking at just army compositions. We're looking at the whole thing. Like, with UC, I mentioned their map. They have a very bad spawn, or, location to start in. So, that's why they're at B. But their, monks are very good, actually. When I didn't know how to counter Yari Ashigaru, I used monks, and that's how I started winning my earlier battles. So, I know what I'm talking about there. Now, these guys, they like their money. Which is quite ironic, because their thing looks very sovereign? Nah, that's not the word. Prized. I'll use that. So, they get a small island. What is there to say? They don't get a strong navy. Their units are average. But they make a good amount of money. Where else can I put them? Yeah, I think C's the best spot for them. Same thing with the Usagi or Usuji, something like that. They get a fairly bad spawn with stronger people around them, and they don't really pride themselves on anything, so they don't have the units that the Usagi would have. So that's why I'm putting them at C. Now the Takeda, you have to be a specific player to find them effective. you have to know how to play cavalry. You have to know how to cycle. For like a pro, this could easily be an S tier faction, but we're looking at this from like a average player. Like, I wouldn't call myself average. I'd say I'm above average. I have like 200, 300 hours in the game. But for someone like 50 hours in the game, that's what we're kind of looking at. 50 hours in game. So we'll put them at A. Sorry, not S. A. They get a bad spawn, but their cavalry is insane, and they have relatively weak allies. But to the south is the Oda, and if you can take the Oda relatively early, you can kind of do what the Oda did in real life. You can just kind of steamroll the south, move up north, go to battle northeast with the Ikoiki, and steamroll them for focusing everything. So yeah, there's a lot of strategy you can use with the Takeda. Other than that, though, there's really not much. Now, the Shikamazu, something like that. The Green Boys. Oh, they get very good, a very good late game unit. Not the best, but a stupid good unit. They get, what do they get? They get heavy gunners. Now that unit specifically is probably the tankiest in the game. They can do a lot of damage and will take a lot of damage. They get a very good spawn with weak allies all around, relatively. We'll get to that later. And they're just like, how do I say this? Their katanas are just stupid good. If you know how to use katanas and have a good katana charge, you can easily shatter an army. Easily. It's very good. And in a game that uses their base infantry extensively, even throughout late game, it's very good to have a unit that can break it. So if you're a good player, these are the guys for you. But if you're a bad player, these are still the guys for you. They get a decent amount of money, relatively weak allies, except for one. We'll get to that. And they just have a perfect spawn. That little island, it's so easy to conquer. You just have to wait a couple years to stabilize it. Then you move up. It's very, very easy. It's a nice unit. Or it's a nice faction with very good units. Immediate S. Anything on the island with Nagasaki on it is basically immediately yes. Now, my favorite faction, the Otomo. Oh, I love them. These were my first DLC purchase. This was my first DLC purchase, and I don't regret it. They're just so good. So, a little bit context for new characters. The Otomo are the only like faction in the game that get early guns. They get very early guns. You can train these Yari matchlocks, these matchlock Kashikaru, like from just the first turn, and oh, this is one of the best units in the game, and I'll stand by that. I'd rather an army of 4 matchlocks over any other army in the game. That sounds like I'm over-exaggerating. I'm really not. If I'm defending and I have 4 matchlocks, I am winning the fight. They are such a powerful unit. I love the unit. And they actually have one major flaw. Because they're Christians, you can't stabilize very easily. You have to wait a few more years. So because I'm experienced, I would place these at S. But for a new player, get used to other factions first. The Otomo are definitely a later game, or later, like, more experienced player faction. Just for that, I'm putting them at A. Or, yeah, at A. But for me, it'd be S. I want to make that noted. Now, the Oda. Best faction for new players. Weak allies, except for the Takeda. And you're relatively, like, just smooth sailing. You get the best early game. in the game other than the Otomo. Ooh, I actually forgot to mention something about the Otomo. You can get the best ship in the game in around, I think it was 6 turns. And no other faction in the game gets that. All right, now back to the Oda. Now, I'm placing them at A for one reason. They're so easy. They're so easy. You get stupid good units early game. But they're still relatively weak because they're Ashikaru. There's a limit. But you can train a whole army of them in about 4 turns. So there's that. It's a very easy faction to get used to. Now the Mori, they're the second worst faction in the game. There's 3 factions that are just bad. This is one of them. They're seafarers, but they don't even get the best ship in the game. That's the Otomo. They're the only ones I get the best ship in the game, relatively early, unless the other factions revert to Christianity, which I don't recommend. It's a very difficult thing to go to Christianity. And they get a bad spawn. They get a really bad spawn. You can get curb stomped from the Nagasaki island, and you can get curb stomped from the main island. D. Horrible faction. I hate them. I hate them all. Ikoiki. Now, this is a special hate-love relationship, because when I play the Ikoiki, I do really good and really bad. They're one of the only factions that you can have a bad good time with. They're very strong. You get stupid massive armies, but at the same time, I don't know why, but they're just so weak. Like, as the Oda, I can crush one of their armies with like a quarter of the units. It is ridiculous. But they get a good spawn. They get a really good spawn or early location. And there's lots of ways you can expand. You can expand east to the Date, or you can expand south to the Oda. And yeah, they just get a really good spawn. One problem though, they get what's the word? You can get locked. You can kind of get locked between other major factions, like from the Nagasaki Island. If the Shimazu win that, or the Otomo even, you can get curb stomped by them very easily, because they just have more professional armies, while the Ikoiki just has lots of them. And you'll never see that, you'll never really think that, but that's what it is. The Ikoiki feel very powerful, they get big armies, but their armies aren't as powerful. That's nowhere... this is just from experience. There's no place that you can look at this and it shows that they get like debuffs or something. They're just bad. But if you play them, they become godly. So B, it's a B. It's a B. It's good. I don't mind it. Now, they look awesome, but like there's no real incentive to play them. They get better artillery, but early game, in Shogun 2, artillery really isn't used that much. Once you get cannons, they're very good, they're very powerful, you can do lots of stuff with them. But that's late game, and I mean, firebomb throwers, they're awesome. They're very good early game, because you get firebomb throwers turn 1, I believe, or you can train them early. So that's all fantastic. But late game, they can also become relatively powerful, but they're just stuck in between very powerful factions. They're stuck in between the Date, Usagi, Ikoiki, Oda, Chosokobi, if you expand east. Yeah, east. No, west, if you expand west. So they can get curb stomped very easily. I'll probably do a little thing on them, little playthrough. I'll probably go through all of the factions that I put at D and C. I've already played S and... You know what? it just doesn't feel right to have it at A. It just doesn't feel right. I'm sorry. I just changed the Otomo. Alright, back to the Moji. Like, they're okay. I wouldn't go out of my way to play them, though. If I was feeling kind of spicy, I might play it, but other than that, I'm not playing that shite. Freak that. Now, these are the Hattori, I believe, and they suck ass. I mean, they get very good spies early on, but who the hell uses spies? Ooh, you can sabotage their army and kill their general, but there's a bigger chance that your spy that you've been grinding for the last 4 hours dies. Yippee! No. D. They get a bad spawn too. They spawn right by Kyoto and the Takeda, and you can just get easily curb stomped. And late game, the Oda become basically God incarnate, and can just curb stomp you. So yeah, I'm good. The Date, they get bulletproof boys. They get like bulletproof samurai, I believe. And I fought them as the Otomo once. I've never had a worse time. I lost that shite. I was playing the Otomo against my friend, and he kept on going the Takeda and kept on dying very easily. So he said, "You know what? I'll go the Date." And he started winning fights against me when we had equal armies and he was on the offensive. So I had to reorganize a lot of my strategy. I couldn't rely on my guns anymore. I had to switch to cavalry and rush him because bulletproof samurai are stupid slow, which is fantastic for me. So little fight if you're fighting the Date, get cavalry. It's something. They get a good spawn. They spawn east. Like far east. I believe they're by themselves, actually. They have very large provinces, so you'll have some time to react to invaders. So that's all good, yeah. We'll put them at a solid B. Like, if I could go a B+, that's where I'd put them. Like, right there is where I'd put them. Chosokobi, it depends on what kind of player you are. If you're playing defense, I mean, I guess they're for the all-rounder units, for the all-rounder players. If you want to do everything decently, go Chosokobi. They get better. What's it called? They get better bows, but those bows early game will carry you so easily. But never try to invade Nagasaki Island if the Otomo are winning. You will die. You will think that your range advantage is winning you fights. The second those matchlocks get into range, you're like bye bows. They'll run because that's exactly what the Otomo matchlocks do. They rotate units. So don't go the Chosokobi to counter Otomo. It doesn't work. Use them to counter Takeda and Satsuma, or even Ikoiki and Oda. You'll beat all those boys relatively easily. Anything that doesn't also kind of focus in range, you can do very well against. Except obviously for the Date, bulletproof samurai. So yeah, we'll go B. They get a very good spawn too. So yeah, that's our tier list. In the comments, just tell me if you have any thoughts or ideas, any tips to improve my videos. So yeah, thank you for watching the video and have a good night.